There is a reason you feel the pressure you feel. There is a reason you dream bigger than the people around you. There is a reason abundance calls to you even when your circumstances say otherwise. It is because you were chosen. Chosen to break the pattern. Chosen to rewrite the story of your lineage. Chosen to become the first millionaire in your family. Do not dismiss that sentence. Your spirit reacted to it because it recognizes truth long before the mind does. The desire for prosperity did not begin with you. It began with the generations before you who prayed for a deliverer, someone who would rise high enough to lift the entire family line with them. When heaven chooses someone for financial increase, it does not choose the comfortable. It chooses the hungry. It chooses the one who has tasted lack and refuses to pass it on. It chooses the one who cannot bear to see their children repeat their own fears. It chooses the one willing to stand alone while the old pattern dies. Ask yourself, why did you survive things others did not? Why were you given dreams others cannot see? Why does the idea of wealth feel both terrifying and familiar? Because wealth is not merely money to you, it is assignment. Now let me take you into a moment you have experienced but never named. You sit in a quiet room, bills on the table, a knot in your stomach, yet behind the fear there is a strange knowing. I was not meant to live like this. That knowing is not arrogance. It is memory. Memory of the path heaven designed for you before you ever stepped into this world. But here is the danger. If you ignore this calling, if you repeat the language of limitation, if you allow fear to speak louder than truth, you will not only delay your own prosperity, you will prolong the struggle of every soul tied to your lineage, because the chain breaks with you, or it does not break at all. Let me paint the picture of what happens when a chosen one refuses the call. 10 years pass, and nothing changes. Opportunities appear, but they feel too big. Money touches your hands, but slips away because you speak against it. Dreams shrink to the size of your doubts, and the abundance assigned to you flows to someone else who is willing to claim it. But imagine the opposite. Imagine hearing this message and recognizing it as confirmation. Imagine realizing your desire for wealth is not greed, it is genetic prophecy. You are the one your ancestors prayed for, the one divine order appointed, the one capable of carrying the blessing without losing yourself. Now pause, breathe, feel the weight of your calling. A woman once told me she feared wanting wealth. She believed it was unspiritual. I told her, your desire is not hunger for money, it is hunger for freedom. She embraced that truth, and within a year her income multiplied in ways she could not have planned. Not because she worked harder, but because you cannot drift your way into transformation. Yet if you choose this path, if you treat the next 90 days as sacred, you will experience a shift so deep that others will say, "What happened to you? You look different. You speak differently. You carry yourself like someone who knows where they are going." This is what happens when a soul disappears into divine order. Let me take you into a moment countless people experience but never name. You look at your life and feel a pull towards solitude. You feel overwhelmed by noise, drained by old relationships, uninspired by routines. You want to retreat, but you fear what others will say. Let me tell you plainly, they are not meant to understand your winter. Winter is not for them. Winter is for you. A woman once came to me exhausted by years of overgiving, overworking, and overthinking. She said, "I feel like I'm disappearing." I smiled and told her, "Good. The old self must disappear before the new self can emerge." She entered a 90-day inner retreat, speaking decrees, trusting intuition, releasing what drained her. When spring came, she stepped into opportunities and relationships that had never appeared before. She returned unrecognizable, not because life changed, but because she had. Let me speak directly to your spirit. The next 90 days hold power for you, a sacred kind of power, but only if you choose them. If you ignore this season, the next 3 months will look like the last 3, filled with the same patterns, frustrations, and misaligned energy. But if you embrace your winter, if you give yourself fully to transformation, you will break cycles that have lasted years. Here is the truth modern life forgets. Winter is not the death of your progress. Winter is the womb of your becoming. So imagine this. You wake tomorrow and begin your 90 days. You withdraw into intention. You speak only what aligns with your divine path. You eliminate what steals your peace. You nourish your spirit. You listen. You obey intuition. And each day, without fanfare, the old version of you loosens its grip. You begin to feel lighter, clearer, more powerful, more guided, more certain of who you are and who you are not. By day 30, people notice something different. By day 60, opportunities appear that were once hidden. By day 90, you no longer resemble the person who began this journey. You become unrecognizable, not because you pretended, but because you aligned. Now listen with your whole heart. This winter is not here to punish you. It is here to prepare you. It is here to refine you, restore you, strengthen you, rebirth you. But the choice is yours. Will you drift through the next 90 days unchanged? Or will you enter them with intention and emerge transformed? As this message continues, listen as one who understands that the next season of your life depends on what you do in the silence of this one. Because winter has come, and winter, when embraced, turns ordinary people into miracles. My friend, whenever a soul feels the strange inner pull to withdraw from the world for a season, people often call it weariness, or confusion, or even failure. But I tell you plainly, such moments are among the most sacred moments of your life. For there are hours when heaven itself draws you aside, saying, "Come into the inner chamber, for I would do a new work in you." And if you heed that call, if you permit yourself to step back from the noise, the hurry, and the endless explanations, you enter a spiritual winter, rich with hidden purpose. Winter is not death. Winter is gestation. A seed does not shout while it transforms. Yet whether it shouts or not, the transformation is underway. So it is with you. When you feel the pull to disappear, it is not a sign that life is collapsing. It is a sign that life is preparing to expand. I have seen many souls resist this season, for they say, "If I am not seen, I will be forgotten. If I am not busy, I will fall behind. If I am not pushing, nothing will change." Yet nothing is further from truth. The world judges by appearances, but appearances are but shadows on the wall. God works in silence. The oak does not shout as its roots deepen, yet without that hidden work, it would fall at the first storm. Many who fear silence do not realize that the noise of their own old thoughts is the very thing delaying their good. When the mind is filled with clutter, the divine cannot speak. Thus, heaven calls man aside into quietness, where the word may reach him. I once counseled a young woman who came to me with a tearful confession. "Miss Shinn," she said, "I feel as though I am vanishing. I speak less, engage less, and something in me seems to be letting go of everything I once clung to. Am I losing myself?" I smiled, for I knew the signs well. "No, my dear," I said. "You are not losing yourself, you are shedding yourself. The old self must dissolve before the new self can appear. You are not vanishing, you are being prepared." She obeyed the inward call. For 90 days, she retreated from idle conversation, ceased explaining herself to others, and filled her silence only with truth. She repeated often, "This season restores me. I am being remade under grace in perfect ways." When she returned to her affairs in springtime, even her posture had changed. People who once overlooked her now listened with interest. Opportunities that once slipped past her now sought her out. She said to me, "Miss Shinn, I hardly know myself." And I answered, "That is the sign of true transformation. You have become the woman your soul always knew." You see, winter is the season when the subconscious is most open to new impress. During busy times, man is distracted. His thoughts scatter. His words contradict themselves. But in winter, in a deliberate season of retreat, the soil of the subconscious lies still, ready to receive the seed of truth. The words spoken in winter take root quickly, for the mind is not tossing the soil about. This is why I tell those who feel called into silence, bless the season, do not resist it. Say, "I enter the chamber of divine preparation. What God begins in secret shall soon appear in perfect ways." When a person speaks thus, the subconscious hears and obeys. I have watched men who resisted this sacred season push and strain through the months of December and January, only to find themselves more entangled by March than before. Their efforts scatter energy rather than focus it. They do not understand that winter has its own law, the law of inner strengthening. Consider nature itself. The tree does not produce leaves in winter. It draws its nourishment inward. Its energy returns to the roots. If the tree attempted to bear fruit in January, it would kill itself. Yet many human beings attempt exactly this, straining to produce results when the soul is calling them inward for renewal. A man once came to me weary and discouraged. He said, "Miss Shinn, nothing I attempt succeeds. Every time I reach forward, something blocks me." I looked at him and said, "My dear, you are trying to harvest in winter. Withdraw. Go inward. Let the divine reform your thoughts." At first he resisted, for he felt he had no time to rest. But spiritual law will not bend for man's impatience. He surrendered at last, taking 90 days to speak truth, to release fear, and to quiet his mind. When spring came, the very door that had refused him for years opened of its own accord. The owner who once dismissed him now welcomed him eagerly. "Miss Shinn," he said. It was as if the world changed its mind about me. And I replied, "No, my dear. The world changed when you changed. Winter made you ready." During such seasons, one must become the watchman at the gate of his own mind. When life becomes quiet, the old patterns often rise like ghosts seeking entry. Fearful thoughts, old memories, negative predictions, they will knock, for they know you are loosening your grip upon them. But winter is the season to forbid their return. Stand guard. Refuse to rehearse the old story. Speak instead the new truth, even if you feel no confidence at first. Say, "This winter transforms me. I am renewed in mind, body, and affairs. My good now germinates beneath the surface." The subconscious does not require emotion. It requires repetition. A gardener does not weep over the seed. He plants it faithfully. I have known those who feared silence because they believed it meant loneliness. Yet silence is not loneliness. It is communion. When the outer world fades, the inner world speaks. In the hush of winter, intuition wakes. Divine ideas rise like snowdrops through frozen ground. A person begins to recognize the faint stirrings of inspiration, the gentle nudge to release something, the quiet impulse to begin something new. These stirrings are the earliest signs of spring, though no one yet sees them. Many great demonstrations begin in such unnoticed moments. Others will begin seeing something new in you, even during the winter season. They may not understand it, but they will feel it. Your speech becomes more measured, your eyes more steady, your presence more grounded. You carry yourself as one engaged in important inner work. They sense your withdrawal is not from weakness, but from purpose. You become, in a way, mysterious, and mystery attracts respect. They begin treating you with more care, more seriousness, more regard. You see, winter is the time when your sense of self-worth begins to be rewritten, and others respond accordingly. Speak with me now, quietly. I bless my winter season. My roots deepen, my truth strengthens, my new life forms beneath the surface. These words are seeds, and seeds, when sown in winter, break the ground in spring. My friend, once a soul has consented to step into the quiet, the first task of its winter is not to gain anything new, but to lay down what has been burdening it for years. A seed cannot rise beneath the weight of stones, and neither can a life blossom while carrying fears, resentments, disappointments, and old narratives worn thin through repetition. Thus, the first 30 days of disappearance are the days of release, the loosening of the old garment so that the new one may be woven. You must understand that nothing delays a person's good so much as the burdens he insists upon carrying himself. The law never required man to hold his fears. It required only that he release them. Yet people cling to their burdens as though they were treasures, repeating their troubles to friend and stranger alike, shaping and reshaping the very conditions they claim to despise. In this winter season, you must do the opposite. You must cast the burden to the Christ within and refuse to lift it again. The moment the burden is cast, the law begins correcting the condition. I recall a woman who came to me during one such winter season of her soul. Her face told the story before her lips did. Her troubles with her home, her finances, her family, each weighed upon her like stones. She said, "Miss Shinn, I cannot bear another day." I said gently, "Then, my dear, stop bearing it. Say, I cast this burden on the Christ within, and I go free." She repeated it without much conviction, for her senses contradicted every syllable. But I told her that conviction was not required, repetition was. Each morning, as soon as fear rose, she cast the burden. Each evening, before sleep, she cast the burden. A strange thing occurred. The atmosphere of her home softened. Her children quarreled less. A financial debt she had dreaded was resolved easily. She returned to me astonished. "Miss Shinn, it feels as though something invisible has lifted off me." And I replied, "Indeed it has. You laid it down. During these first 30 days, the walls that have surrounded your life, walls built stone by stone with fearful speech, begin to loosen. Your old identity, formed through countless repetitions of "I cannot," "I never," "I always struggle," starts to crumble. At first, you may feel disoriented, for the familiar, even when painful, has a certain comfort. I tell you, do not mistake discomfort for danger. It is merely the sensation of walls falling away. I once advised a man who had lived for years under the shadow of financial dread. He woke each morning fearing bills and fell asleep rehearsing lack. I said, "My dear, every fear you speak repeats itself in your affairs. You are not lacking money, you are lacking peace." I taught him to bless every bill with the decree, "You are paid in full through divine order." He did this faithfully for 30 days. Instead of shrinking from envelopes, he blessed them. Instead of speaking want, he spoke sufficiency. In less time than he imagined, unexpected channels of supply opened. Money he had forgotten, refunds, small opportunities that grew into larger ones. He said, "Miss Shinn, I feel rich in spirit." And I answered, "The moment your spirit grows rich, your affairs soon follow." You see, winter silence breaks the boomerang cycle. When a person stops feeding fear with words, fear begins to starve. When a person stops rehearsing old failures, those failures cease to echo. The boomerang returns only what you throw. When you no longer hurl anxiety into the universe, anxiety no longer circles back. Winter is the season where you reclaim mastery of your speech, not through force, but through discipline of silence. The less nonsense you speak, the more quickly truth takes hold. Another woman I knew spent her days reliving grievances long buried. Every wrong ever done to her she carried as a burden, repeating the sad litany to anyone who would listen. Her face grew lined, not from age, but from bitterness. When her winter season came, I instructed her to cease speaking of the past entirely and to repeat, "There is no loss in divine mind. My past is wiped out. My future is secure." At first, she felt emptied, for she had used her grievances as a sort of identity. But as she persisted, her countenance brightened. She forgave without effort. She found joy in small things. A broken relationship in her family healed in a manner so graceful that even she called it miraculous. She said, "Miss Shinn, I feel lighter." And indeed she was, for she had cast away the stones she once clutched so tightly. In these early 30 days, others begin noticing subtle, yet unmistakable shifts in you. You react less quickly, your presence feels calmer. You do not rush to explain yourself. You refuse invitations to needless chatter. You protect your mind as a gardener protects new seeds from frost. Those who once dismissed your spiritual life now see a seriousness in your eyes, a centeredness in your bearing. Even your silence speaks for you. This is the time when divine design begins whispering its first notes into your heart. Not loudly, for the soil is still settling, but unmistakably. You feel the faint stirrings of possibility, the slightest rise in inner expectancy. Ideas come like soft snowflakes, quiet, delicate, easily dismissed if you were busy. But now you notice them. You begin to think, perhaps my life need not remain as it has been. This thought may feel dangerous, but it is not. It is holy. It is the first glimpse of spring beneath winter's cloak. Speak with me now. The old pattern dissolves. I go free into my new season. What God has begun in silence shall unfold. These words are the warm breath that melts the first edges of ice. You are not losing anything in this season. You are loosening everything that never belonged to you. My friend, once the burden has been cast and the old self has begun to dissolve in the quiet cold of winter, a marvelous thing begins to occur within the soul. A new pattern, your divine design, starts to rise like a faint constellation behind a veil. At first, it appears only as an impression, a sense, a whisper of possibility. But as the days unfold, and as you continue guarding your speech and nourishing your spirit, this inner pattern grows brighter and clearer, until at last you recognize it as the true blueprint of your life. Every soul has such a blueprint. It is not something you create, it is something you discover. Before you came into this world, your perfect work, your perfect surroundings, your perfect relationships, your perfect opportunities were all woven into a tapestry of divine intention. Yet, through fear and doubt, many have wandered far from the pattern. They have taken on work that drained them, friendships that diminished them, habits that misaligned them, and thoughts that obscured their original design. Winter is the season when this misalignment is corrected, not by force, but by surrender. I once counseled a woman who had spent years believing she had no particular talent or calling. She drifted from one occupation to another, always doing what came her way, never what stirred her soul. During her winter season, she began a simple practice at my instruction. Each morning she spoke, "I have a wonderful work in a wonderful way. I give wonderful service for wonderful pay." She did not feel the truth of it at first, but she spoke it faithfully. After 30 days, a strange restlessness came upon her. Not a frantic restlessness, but an awakening sense that she was meant for more. She began noticing small things she loved doing, small tasks she did with joy but had never honored. Soon she was guided by a chain of events no human could orchestrate into a role perfectly suited to her temperament, her gifts, and her spirit. She later said, "Miss Shinn, I feel as though I stepped into the life I was born for." And I replied, "Indeed, my dear, you simply aligned with your design." One of the ancient Ethiopian writings speaks of the Book of the Soul, a mystical record that contains the true path of every person. Winter, they taught, was the season when scribes rewrote their manuscripts by lamplight, symbolic of the subconscious rewriting the script of one's life. This is precisely what occurs when you withdraw from the noise of the world and immerse yourself in truth. You are rewriting your inner manuscript. You are allowing divine intelligence to cross out the old lines of fear and inscribe new affirmations of destiny. Divine design never arrives with confusion. It arrives with certainty. Even if the outer path is not yet visible, the inner sense of rightness is unmistakable. You begin to feel drawn towards certain ideas, repelled by others. You lose interest in what once fascinated you, and you feel peace where once you felt anxiety. That peace is your compass. A young man once came to me in great distress. He had studied several professions, tried many pursuits, and felt more lost with each passing year. "Miss Shinn," he said, "I fear I have missed my purpose entirely." I smiled, for he had not missed anything. He had merely tangled himself in too many options. I instructed him to speak. "Divine design now reveals itself. I cannot miss my destiny." He repeated it with earnest faith. Slowly, his desires clarified. An idea arose within him, an idea he had dismissed years before as impractical. But now, the idea glowed with a quiet certainty. He followed it, step by intuitive step, and the entire path opened before him as though it had been waiting. He eventually built a work that blessed countless others. He returned to me, saying, "It feels as though life itself welcomed me." And I answered, "Life always welcomes the one who walks in his design." During this middle stretch of winter, days 30 through 60, your identity begins its great shift. People who have known you for years may not yet say anything aloud, but they feel the change. Your posture alters. You no longer move as though pushed by anxiety. You move as though guided by a higher intelligence. Your voice carries a note of assurance, even in small matters. You take less advice from those who do not understand your inner calling, and you take more direction from the quiet within. The world around you responds to these changes instinctively, for the outer world is but the reflection of the inner. Sometimes, during this phase, circumstances may rearrange themselves abruptly. A door may close, a relationship may drift, a job may come to an end. Many fear these changes. They say, "Miss Shinn, everything is falling apart." But I tell them, nothing is falling apart. Everything is falling into place. Divine design will not permit you to remain in a position beneath your potential. If a path disappears, it is because it was not your path. Only the right road. remains firm beneath your feet. A woman I knew once came to me in alarm. A long-standing contract she relied upon had dissolved without warning. She feared ruin, but she had been speaking for many weeks. My right place appears. All other places fall away. I told her, "This is your demonstration of divine design at work." She looked uncertain, but within days she was offered a far better opportunity, one she had secretly desired but never deemed possible. "Miss Shinn," she exclaimed, "had the old situation remained, this new one could not have arrived." And I answered, "That is the law. Your good cannot come until the lesser is removed." During these days, intuition becomes sharper. Ideas that once seemed faint now grow strong. You may feel sudden urges to change your surroundings, reorganize your home, discard old belongings, or step into a new routine. Do not dismiss these impulses. They are part of the rearrangement. Divine design requires a clear field. The old must make room for the new, and you must cooperate by releasing everything that no longer serves your destiny. Others will begin to treat you differently without knowing why. They sense the emergence of your true identity. You will notice a gentler respect in their tone, a greater attentiveness, a willingness to yield to your presence. Children may behave better around you. Strangers may offer assistance. Opportunities may circle you as though drawn by unseen magnetism. This is all evidence that your inner life is radiating outward. Say with me now, "My divine design unfolds. I walk in my right place under grace." Repeat it faithfully each day of your winter, for the design is already complete. Your task is merely to step into it. My friend, there comes a point in every winter of the soul when the silence becomes so profound, so deep, so unbroken, that it ceases to feel like emptiness and begins to feel like a presence. It is as though something invisible has drawn near, something watchful, patient, and wise. This something is what I call the magic path of intuition, though it is no magic at all, merely the lawful whisper of God reaching the attentive heart. When a person grows quiet enough and still enough and honest enough to listen, intuition rises as naturally as a spring bubbling through the earth. It has been there all along, but until the winter season, the noise of fear drowned it out. Many people believe intuition to be some rare gift, reserved only for saints, mystics, or prophets. Yet every soul possesses this inner guide. It is the divine shepherd speaking to his sheep. It is the still small voice that Elijah heard, not in the wind, nor in the fire, nor in the earthquake, but in the gentle whisper that followed. But you see, the whisper is always gentle. It never shouts. Fear shouts, doubt shouts, the world shouts. Intuition simply waits. Winter is the season when the shouting ceases long enough for you to hear. I recall a woman who entered her 90-day disappearance feeling utterly directionless. She said, "Miss Shinn, I do not know what to do next. Every door looks the same. Every path is covered in mist." I told her, "My dear, you are blessed. When nothing is clear, intuition is closest. Be still and listen." She began each morning by saying, "Infinite intelligence reveals my next step." At first, nothing seemed to happen, but as her mind quieted, she sensed a faint impression, no louder than a breath, that she should write a letter to someone she had not spoken to in years. She ignored it twice, thinking it silly. But the third morning, the impression returned with such quiet insistence that she obeyed. That single letter set in motion a chain of events that led her to her right work, her right surroundings, and even the right companionship she had prayed for. She later told me, "Miss Shinn, I shudder to think how close I came to silencing the very whisper that changed my life. You must understand, intuition is not reasoning. Reason follows facts. Intuition follows truth. Reason sees obstacles. Intuition sees the path between them. Reason waits for evidence. Intuition brings evidence. Reason says, be careful. Intuition says, proceed with confidence. Reason calculates. Intuition knows. Every great demonstration I have ever witnessed began with a quiet knowing that seemed unreasonable at the time, yet proved perfect in its unfolding. A man once came to me who had wandered for years through professions that left him weary of soul. He said, Miss Shinn, I cannot seem to find where I belong. I replied, you are listening to the wrong voice. You are listening to advice, to opinion, to logic, everything but the guidance within. I instructed him to speak. I am divinely guided. The way appears. He did so faithfully. One morning, during his winter retreat, he felt a curious impulse to visit a part of the city he rarely entered. He resisted at first. It made no sense. Yet the impression persisted. Gentle, but firm, he obeyed. There, quite unexpectedly, he encountered a man he had known years before, one who immediately offered him an opportunity suited perfectly to his temperament and skills. Had he delayed by even an hour, the meeting would have been missed. He returned to me amazed. Miss Shinn, he said, it was as though the universe arranged the entire moment. I answered, it did not need to arrange anything. The moment was waiting for you. Intuition merely led you to it. During winter, intuition speaks louder, not by volume, but by clarity. You begin to feel certain things without explanation. You feel attracted to particular books, ideas, or conversations. You feel compelled to reorganize your home, cleanse your environment, or let go of belongings that weigh upon your spirit. You may feel a sudden aversion to old routines or acquaintances, for intuition separates you from everything that obstructs your good. Likewise, it draws you towards certain actions, even small ones, that act as stepping stones across the river of change. Your task is not to understand intuition. Your task is to obey it. I have seen many who recognized the whisper, but delayed obedience, only to find the opportunity passed. The divine never withholds guidance, but man often withholds action. I once knew a woman who felt an inner nudge to telephone a friend, but she dismissed it as imagination. Days later, she learned that the friend had been in need of precisely the encouragement she could have given. She wept, saying, Miss Shinn, I did not trust the whisper. I told her, my dear, intuition is like a visitor. If you ignore its first knock, it may knock again, but if ignored long enough, it waits until you invite it back. During this season of silence, intuition becomes your compass. You speak less, listen more. You stop forcing answers, and answers arise of their own accord. You cease striving, and right action presents itself clearly. You do not rush. You do not fear. You do not explain your decisions to those who cannot perceive what you perceive. For when one is guided from within, he walks in a confidence that is silent, yet unmistakable. Others will begin to notice this change in you. They will see that your steps are surer, your choices more elegant, your presence more collected. You will seem fortunate to them, for things begin falling into place around you. But it is not fortune. It is law. It is obedience to the inner guide. You cannot walk the magic path without appearing charmed to others, for intuition clears away obstacles long before you encounter them. It smooths the road, shifts the timing, and prepares the meeting. To the outer eye, it looks miraculous. To the inner ear, it is simply the result of listening. Say now within yourself, infinite intelligence guides me. I hear the still small voice. I walk the magic path of intuition. Let this be your declaration each morning of your winter season. For the whisper you follow today becomes the demonstration you behold tomorrow. My friend, as winter deepens and the soul settles into its quiet rebirth, there comes a moment when a person begins to feel the faint stirring of something he has not known for a long time. Security. Not the false security built on circumstance, savings, or human promises, but the true spiritual security that arises when one recognizes that supply does not come from the outer world at all. Supply comes from God. The channel may change 1,000 times, but the source remains the same. And winter is the season when this truth becomes not a theory, not a hope, but a revelation. In the early days of your disappearance, you cast burdens. In the next phase, you stepped into your divine design. And now, as your intuition awakens, the law of supply begins to move in your favor with a quiet, steady force that astonishes those who once watched you struggle. For nothing frightens the human mind more than the illusion of lack, and nothing liberates it more completely than the realization that there is no lack in divine mind. I once counseled a man who entered his winter season with heavy concerns about his finances. He said, "Miss Shinn, I fear I may not make it through these months." I looked at him with the full authority of spiritual law and said, "My dear, you do not understand the season you stand in. Winter is not the time when supply diminishes. It is the time when supply deepens. For when all distractions fall away, the channels of spirit open." I instructed him to bless every coin he had, to bless every bill that arrived, and to speak constantly. My supply is infinite, immediate, and unbroken. He obeyed with childlike faith. Within days, small demonstrations appeared, unexpected returns, forgotten credits, invitations for work he had never considered, kindnesses from unexpected quarters. Each demonstration strengthened his faith until he no longer feared the coming months. He said to me, "Miss Shinn, it feels as though invisible hands are supporting me." And I answered, "Indeed they are. You have permitted the law to act." Many people imagine supply to be something they must chase or earn or force into their lives. But this is ignorance of the law. Supply flows not to the anxious, but to the aligned. It does not appear by strain, but by faith. Winter, with all its stillness, teaches a man to stop grasping at the world and to rest in the sufficiency of God. When the frantic hands release their grip, the open hands receive their good. A woman came to me once who had lived for many years in the shadow of financial struggle. Every dollar that entered her purse seemed to slip out again. Her speech was filled with phrases such as, "I never have enough. I do not know how I will pay this. Money disappears as soon as I touch it." She had created a pattern that the law faithfully fulfilled. When winter drew her inward, I instructed her to stop speaking lack entirely and to repeat several times daily, "The magic purse of the Spirit is my purse. It can never be depleted." At first she laughed, believing the phrase fanciful, but she repeated it. In winter, repetition is powerful, for the soil of the subconscious lies soft and receptive. Within weeks, the strangest things began to happen. She found money she had forgotten. She received small but steady opportunities for additional income. A friend repaid an old debt. She learned of a resource that greatly reduced her expenses. Her purse, once a symbol of lack, became a symbol of supply. She told me, "Miss Shinn, it is as though every time I open it, something appears." I smiled and said, "So it is with the magic purse of spirit. It responds to faith." The ancient Ethiopian mystics had a beautiful teaching. They said that every soul carries a hidden vessel of sustenance that never empties unless the Soul believes it does. This vessel corresponds exactly with what I have taught as the magic purse of the spirit. Winter was considered the time when this vessel refilled itself. When a person withdrew from worldly distractions, ceased fearful speech, and listened to intuition, the vessel poured forth its contents. During your winter season, you will notice something peculiar. The less you worry about money, the more it flows. The less you speak of difficulty, the more ease appears. The less you chase opportunities, the more opportunities chase you. This is not coincidence, it is law. The soul in harmony attracts its own. A man once came to me who feared he would lose everything. He had built his life on shaky foundations and felt them crumbling beneath him. He said, "Miss Shinn, I see no way out." I told him, "My dear, when man sees no way, God sees 1,000. Speak this. God is my immediate and inexhaustible supply." He repeated it daily. One morning, as he sat quietly during his winter retreat, he felt a sudden inner direction to contact someone he had met only briefly. The thought seemed absurd, but he obeyed. That single act opened the very channel through which his supply flowed, not only restoring what he had lost, but giving him more than before. He returned to me with shining eyes, saying, "Miss Shinn, I would have never thought to do such a thing." I replied, "Your intuition thought of it, and your obedience allowed the law to act." During these winter days, you must remember to bless every channel, not cling to any. For channels may shift, but the source remains steady. A brook may freeze, but the river beneath the ground still flows. If one channel closes, rejoice, for a better one is on its way. Say, "Every door that closes makes way for a greater one. My good appears immediately, under grace." Others will begin noticing your relationship with supply long before you speak of it. They will see a quiet confidence in your manner. You no longer shrink from bills, for you bless them. You no longer dread expenses, for you know they are merely opportunities for demonstration. You walk with the dignity of one who trusts the source and is therefore unafraid of the channels. People will comment that you seem calmer, more composed, even more prosperous in appearance, though you have said nothing. For true prosperity begins within, and once the inner pattern is set, the outer quickly conforms. Say with me now, softly but with authority, "There is no loss in divine mind. My supply cannot fail. The magic purse of the Spirit is my purse, and it overflows." These are not mere words, they are spiritual mechanisms. They turn the gears of the invisible, they open the gates of heaven's storehouse, and in winter, they work swiftly. Your supply, my friend, is assured. Winter has given it room to flow. My friend, there comes a moment in every winter of the soul when something subtle begins to shift, so subtle that you scarcely notice it at first. You awaken one morning and realize that the heaviness you once carried has lessened. The anxious thought that used to greet you before dawn does not rise so quickly. You move through your hours with a grace you cannot yet explain. It is as though a new presence has taken up residence within you. Quiet, steady, immovable. That presence is your true self, emerging at last. The world teaches men to build their lives outwardly, through effort, ambition, and endless striving. But the spiritual life teaches the opposite. When the inner self changes, the outer world must rearrange itself accordingly. Winter is the season when this inner self is reforged, and by the time spring arrives, the person who emerges is often unrecognizable, not because their appearance has changed, but because their consciousness has changed. And consciousness is destiny. I once counseled a woman who had spent her life apologizing for her own presence. She moved lightly, spoke softly, and carried an air of insignificance, as though she feared offending the very air around her. When her winter season arrived, she withdrew from the world not in defeat, but in obedience to an inner call. She ceased explaining herself, ceased excusing herself, ceased diminishing herself. She began to speak truth to her subconscious. I am God's child, equipped for my perfect work. I walk in dignity and power. These words felt foreign to her at first. Yet she persisted. Winter requires persistence. Toward the end of her season, she noticed something remarkable. People who had once overlooked her now paused when she entered a room. Those who dismissed her opinions now sought her counsel. Friends remarked that she seemed different, though none could name the change. She told me, Miss Shinn, I feel taller. And I said, My dear, you are walking in your true stature. The world is simply adjusting to the new pattern you have accepted. You see, winter strips away the false identity, the borrowed behaviors, the fear-based habits, the protective shells formed through disappointment. When these fragments fall away, what remains is the real you, calm, clear, radiant, spiritually authoritative. And the world always treats a person according to the identity he holds of himself. When you hold yourself lightly, the world tosses you about. When you hold yourself firmly, the world steps aside. A gentleman once came to me with deep frustration. He said, Miss Shinn, people do not respect me. They interrupt me, overlook me, and disregard my words. I told him, it is not they who disregard you. Your subconscious disregards you. Change your inner pattern, and the world will change its response. During his winter season, he began speaking daily. I walk in divine authority. My words carry weight. At first, he felt foolish, yet he persisted. Soon he noticed that when he spoke, people listened. When he entered a room, conversations paused. When he gave direction, others complied without resistance. He said to me, astonished, Miss Shinn, nothing in the world changed, and yet everything changed. And I replied, nothing external needed to change. You changed. During this stage of winter, the emergence of the new identity, you may discover that certain relationships fall away. Do not grieve them. A new consciousness cannot maintain fellowship with old vibrations. Those who are aligned with your former self may not be aligned with your rising one. Some will drift quietly, some will resist, some will cling, but all will sort themselves according to law. Your task is not to chase or explain. Your task is to remain faithful to the identity God is forming within you. You may also notice that people who once drained your energy no longer do so. Their demands seem lighter. Their criticisms slip past you without penetration. This is because your inner authority has strengthened. The subconscious no longer accepts their words as truth. You have grown roots, and a tree with deep roots does not tremble in every wind. Another woman once told me, Miss Shinn, I feel as though I am watching myself from a higher place. She meant that she no longer reacted impulsively to life. She observed her own thoughts, chose her own responses, and moved from intention rather than fear. I said, that is spiritual maturity. You have become the watchman at your own gate. When a person reaches this state, it is impossible for him to return to his old ways. The new self has taken dominion. Others begin to treat you differently because they sense the shift in your vibration. They may not articulate it in spiritual terms, but they recognize the change nonetheless. Some will say you seem more confident, others that you seem more peaceful, still others that you seem stronger. Children, who are the most spiritually sensitive, will be drawn to you. Animals, too, may behave differently around you. All creation responds to the one who walks in alignment with divine law. During this phase, your actions become more deliberate. You no longer scatter your energy or attempt to please everyone. You speak less, but with more purpose. You choose your company carefully. You conserve your strength. You move from the center rather than the circumference. It is a kind of spiritual royalty, not pride, but poise. For the child of God is meant to walk in dignity. Say with me now, I walk in divine authority. My presence is ordered by Spirit. I am renewed in strength, wisdom, and purpose. Let these words settle deeply into your subconscious, for they are the garments of your new identity. Your winter is nearing its completion, my friend. Your new self is emerging, steady, and radiant. The world is preparing to meet you, and it will not recognize the person who went into this season. You are becoming the demonstration of your own prayer. My friend, there comes a morning, quiet, unannounced, bearing no trumpet nor sign, when winter is over. It does not end with spectacle, but with a softness. The light in your room seems gentler. Your breath feels deeper. Your very thoughts rise with a clarity that surprises you. And you realize, perhaps slowly, perhaps all at once, that something in your inner world has crossed a threshold. The season of preparation is complete. You have entered your spiritual spring. Spring is not the reward for winter. Spring is the revelation of what winter accomplished. During those months of silence, boundaries were restored, fears dissolved, desires clarified, and the subconscious, once crowded with old impress, became fertile ground for truth. Now the truth begins to sprout, and as every gardener knows, the first green shoots do not emerge because the seed struggled, they emerge because the conditions were made right. So it is with you. I once counseled a man who underwent a deep winter season, 90 days in which he withdrew from crowds, protected his speech, listened to intuition, and cast burdens he had carried for years. When spring came, he told me, "Miss Shinn, everything seems to open before me. Conversations go smoothly. People smile at me. Opportunities present themselves without effort. I feel as though life itself has risen to meet me." And I said, "My dear, life did not rise. You did. Life is simply reflecting your new elevation." Spring is the season of manifestation. All that was whispered to your subconscious in winter now becomes visible. You begin to see connections where none existed. You find yourself in the right place at the right time with the right word. People who once hesitated now welcome you. Circumstances that once resisted now yield. Even delays of the past reveal their purpose, for they protected you from stepping into your good before you were ready to hold it. A woman once came to me after her winter retreat and said, "Miss Shinn, doors that have been closed for years have opened without my knocking." I replied, "They were not closed, my dear. You were simply standing before the wrong ones. Winter guided you to the right hallway, and spring turned the handle." This is the magnificence of divine order. It wastes nothing. It delays nothing. It confuses nothing. It simply prepares the soil, plants the seed, and reveals the harvest in perfect timing. During this spring season, you will notice that the identity you forged in winter expresses itself with remarkable ease. You speak with assurance not because you try, but because it is natural. You choose what aligns with your spirit and decline what does not, without guilt, without explanation. You walk differently, as though the ground beneath you were prepared. Others sense the difference instantly. Some will say you appear brighter, others will say you seem more composed. Some will not know what to say. They will simply treat you with a new level of respect because the atmosphere around you commands it. I recall a woman who disappeared into her winter season, a frightened, uncertain soul. When she returned, even her family did not immediately recognize her, not because her features had changed, but because her countenance had. She moved with such calm dignity that her children behaved differently in her presence. Her husband sought her counsel. Her employers entrusted her with greater responsibility. She told me, "Miss Shinn, it is as though I have stepped into another life." And I replied, "No, my dear, you have stepped into your true one." Spring also brings the unfolding of your divine design. The ideas that flickered faintly in winter now burn bright. The intuitive nudges that whispered become clear directives. You feel a certainty in your path, even if only the next step is visible. The next step is always enough. The Israelites did not see the whole journey. They saw only the cloud by day and the fire by night. Each step revealed the next, and so it is with you. Divine design reveals itself to the obedient, not the impatient. A gentleman once experienced this with astonishing grace. During his winter season, he received the quiet impression to study a subject he had long dismissed as impractical. He obeyed, though it seemed of little consequence. When spring came, that very subject became the key that opened his new vocation, one that provided fulfillment, abundance, and influence he had never imagined. He marveled, saying, "Miss Shinn, I had no idea that what seemed small would prove so large." I answered, "Intuition never leads to triviality. Every nudge is a seed." During this time, you may feel as though something luminous has settled upon your life. The ordinary becomes meaningful. The simple becomes beautiful. The path that once felt tangled now feels straight. When difficulties arise, you no longer panic. You speak the word, and the law obeys. When confusion appears, you turn inward and listen, and the answer reveals itself. When others worry, you remain calm, not because you ignore reality, but because you know that reality bends to spiritual law. Say with me now, "My new life appears in perfect ways. I walk into prepared blessings." Feel the truth of those words. They are not predictions. They are acknowledgments. They describe what is already unfolding. Spring also brings a final separation from the former self. You look back on your old patterns, your fears, your hurried speech, your self-doubt, and wonder how such thoughts ever held power over you. You feel gratitude for the past, for it brought you to this present, but you no longer identify with it. You bless what was, you embrace what is, and you expect what will be. Others will see this clearly. They will say you look lighter, younger, stronger. They may not know where you went or what you did, but they will know you returned differently. Some will admire your transformation. A few may envy it, but none will deny it. You have become the demonstration of divine law. You have shown what a soul can become when it withdraws for a season, listens inwardly, disciplines its speech, obeys intuition, casts its burdens, and trusts supply. And now, my friend, your 90 days are complete. You have disappeared from the world, but not into nothingness. You disappeared into God and returned as yourself. Speak with me this final decree. Under grace, I am renewed. Under grace, I am transformed. Under grace, I walk in my true life. Let these words close your winter and open your spring. Your new season has begun, and the world, when it sees you, will scarcely believe the transformation, for you have returned unrecognizable. Not because you changed, but because you finally became who you were meant to be. My friend, spring does not merely open before you, it opens through you. For the world you now behold is not an accident of circumstance, but the reflection of a consciousness transformed in silence. You may walk the same streets, enter the same rooms, speak to the same people, yet everything responds differently because you respond differently. Life mirrors back the image you hold of yourself, and winter has given you a new image, an image of poise, sufficiency, guidance, and divine authority. You will find, in these early days of spring, that your words carry a new potency. You speak less, yet accomplish more. You declare good, and good rises swiftly, as though it had only been waiting for permission. You bless others, and blessings return without delay. You speak a decree over your affairs, and the law moves with such precision that even you may marvel. But marvel gently, for you are not witnessing a miracle. You are witnessing law. I once instructed a woman, newly emerged from her winter season, to speak only truth over her affairs, never to rehearse an obstacle, never to prophesy difficulty, never to indulge in idle complaint. She obeyed. When a problem arose, she would say simply, "This situation is now under grace." When she desired guidance, she said, "Infinite intelligence reveals the next step." When she faced a seeming lack, she declared, "My supply appears immediately from the invisible." Within weeks, her life rearranged itself with such ease that she confessed she no longer understood how she had endured her former way of living. She said, "Miss Shinn, it is as though my words now go forth like swift messengers." And I answered, "Indeed they do, for your words now carry the authority of belief. For the greatest shift that occurred in your winter season is not in your surroundings, nor in your opportunities, nor even in your relationships. The greatest shift is that you believe now. Not weakly, not conditionally, not as wishful thinking, but as a certainty woven into your very nature. And belief is the engine of demonstration. A single word spoken from belief accomplishes more than 100 words spoken in fear. Spring will also reveal that your former desires have matured. Things you once chased with anxious eagerness now approach you gently, as though aware that they must meet you at your new level. Old wants fall away. You realize you no longer crave what once glittered to your senses, for your spirit has grown discerning. You desire only what aligns with your divine design, and the law honors this refinement. When desire is purified, manifestation is swift. A young woman once told me, after her winter retreat, "Miss Shinn, I feel no pull toward the things I used to desire. It is as though my heart has been rewritten." I said, "It has. Winter strips away the lesser so that the greater may enter." Within months, she met the right partner, stepped into right work, and found herself surrounded by right friendships. She had not forced any of it. She had merely become the version of herself to whom such blessings naturally gravitate. Your relationships, too, will reflect your new consciousness. Those who belong to your spring will rise to meet you. Those who belong to your past will fall gently away as leaves fall in autumn, not through drama, but through completion. You need not push them, correct them, or explain yourself to them. Winter already performed the separation. You simply bless them and walk on. You may notice also that new people appear, people who speak to your spirit rather than your wounds, who encourage your growth rather than your stagnation, who recognize your worth rather than challenge it. These individuals are part of your divine design. They were always there, but you could not see them while living under your old pattern. Winter removed the veil. Another man once approached me saying, "Miss Shinn, since my retreat, I find that people treat me with a respect I never knew before." I replied, "My dear, you respect yourself now. The world must follow. For man is never treated better than he treats himself, nor seen more clearly by others than he sees himself. Your spring demonstrates this truth daily. And now, my friend, as you walk further into this season, you will discover a new attribute rising within you: spiritual composure. Not the composure born of suppression or politeness, but the composure born of certainty. You know now that nothing can be taken from you that belongs to your divine design. You know that no opportunity can pass you by if it is yours by right. You know that no delay is denial, only redirection. You know that failure is impossible when guided by intuition. You know that your supply flows continuously, that your path is guarded, and that your word is creative. You become, in a very real way, a steward of your own destiny. It is here, in spring, that your winter's work becomes unmistakable to others. They may ask where you went, what you did, what changed you so thoroughly. Some will whisper that you seem different, though they do not understand why. A few may marvel, a few may envy, a few may even follow your example, but most will simply feel the difference you carry, whether or not they can name it. For transformation is a light. Some see it with their eyes, some feel it with their hearts, some resist it with their fears, but none can ignore it. Speak with me now. Under grace, I step into my new life. I walk with strength, wisdom, and expectancy. My demonstration is sure. Let this be the decree that seals your passage from winter to spring. And my friend, if you remain faithful to your inner work, even after these 90 days, you will find that every season becomes spring to the one who listens inwardly. For the soul that has learned the laws of manifestation walks in perpetual renewal. You have not merely transformed. You have awakened. You have not merely improved. You have remembered. You have not merely survived winter. You have emerged crowned by it. You disappeared for a season. And now, the world must meet the one you have become.